All right, we're going to go live in three, two, one. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. No matter where you're watching us from around the globe, I say thank you for allowing us into your home and into your lives. I don't take that for granted. If you're watching us on Roku or Amazon Fire this afternoon, hey, I give you a sincere thank you. If you're listening to us in podcast form, turn us up. Let us put that flavor in your ear. Hey, it's time to lace them up once again with the Coach Scott Field Show. This is where I put sexy into the sports talk. Real quick, a happy birthday to my wife, Kim, whose birthday is this weekend. Also, thank you so much for everybody who took the time to vote on our Mike flag this week. Hundreds of votes came in, and I'm very appreciative of that. You can see I'm rocking the purple today. The reason I'm rocking purple, my guest today, Mr. Mike Penberthy. So I'm excited to have Mike join us. If you're watching us on Facebook, remember to send your questions and comments or emoji reactions during this conversation. Today, we're going to use the hashtag MP12. That's right. My man, Mike Penberthy. If you're sitting back there today, right now, and you're saying, hey, why should I be watching this show? My friend, Mike Penberthy, two-time NAIA All-American at Masters College. He had a record for setting 111 straight games with a three-pointer made. I'm telling you, that jump shot was smoother than a Brian McKnight ballad, let me tell you. He was a 2001 NBA champion with the Lakers as a player, 2020 NBA champion from the bubble as a coach. He's got the Pacers tonight. They got the Warriors on Monday. He'd come from the shoot around, so I appreciate you're going to see he's driving in the car with us right now. Be safe out there with us, Mike. Mike is a husband, a father, and an all-around winner, and we have a long relationship, so I'm thrilled to have him. Mike Penberthy, how are you, my man?
I'm
Can you hear
doing
me?
great. Thanks for having me, Scott. It's great to be here.
Well, hey, you be careful as
Yeah,
you're
I can hear you.
driving in that car.
I'm good. No, I'm good. No problem. This I'm used to it here in LA traffic. This is all we do all the time. So I'm good.
Well, I know you're taking time from your busy schedule as you're heading to the arena for that game tonight. So let's chop it up and have a lot of fun. So again, I appreciate you. Be safe on the roads there, and looks like you got you a little rain as you're driving to the game today.
Yeah, a little rain. We're thankful to have it. We don't get it too often here in California, so we'll take it.
There you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, Mike Penberthy, he and I relationship goes back to we're going to date ourselves here. We're in the mid 90s when you and I met first. So we both had a lot more hair back then, brother.
No question. Absolutely.
Well, Mike was undrafted coming out of Masters College, but Mike, take us back to the time. Where were you when you got that vet camp invite to be with the Lakers?
Well, I was in the summer league at the time. I was playing in the LA Summer League. They used to have an LA Pro Summer League where basically from 9 until 3 in the afternoon, free agents would get the chance to play and show what they could do. And then the NBA teams would come in and play from 3 until 9 p.m. So it was a great opportunity for guys who weren't drafted and weren't necessarily on the radar of the NBA to show their stuff. So that was where I was playing. And I was lucky because the Lakers were playing right after my team. And so I got the chance to play in front of the LA Laker coaches, and that was where they saw me for the first time.
That's exactly right. As a matter of fact, I think those games were going on at the Pyramid down there in Long Beach, correct?
That's right. That's correct. The pyramid,
I,
yeah.
I remember coaching those free agent teams down there. That was a lot of fun, and watching your confidence grow and your progression, and seeing Tex Winter and those guys, starting to show some interest. I was super thrilled for you, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great. I mean, I played well there. They watched me twice, and then they invited me to play in a free agent kind of mini camp before the season started. So I was one of 30 guys, brought to this mini camp. And Derek Fisher had sprained his foot and broken his foot, I think, actually. And so they had a spot available, but it wasn't a permanent spot. It was just basically a spot for camp. So I got a chance to play there. I was the only one chosen to go to camp. And then the rest is history. I made a team, and got the chance to play with the Lakers.
So Mike, where were you when you got that call from the Lakers saying, "Hey, you're on the roster, you're invited to camp"? Where were you when you got that call?
Well, I was actually at home, and I remember my wife saying, "Hey, I don't recognize this number. Do you know who this is?" And so we were just kind of confused, and ended up being Mitch Kupchak, and he said, "Hey, we want you to come to camp. You're our guy for this spot. Enjoy your week here," is what he said. You get to be here for a week and just do your best. We're thankful you earned it. So I said, great. So I figured if I'm going to be here for a week, I'm not passing to anybody. I'm shooting this thing every time I get it. And so that was the right mentality because they wanted a shooter, and it ended up working out.
Well, take us through the emotions of that. I mean, you're there with your wife, Wendy. I mean, what kind of celebration? I mean, did you just go crazy? I mean, and I know you're a man of faith, so take
Mhm.
us through that celebration of what that was like, getting that call as an undrafted guy who you knew you could play, but you just needed that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit. We had to sit down at the table for a second because I had opportunities to play back in Europe. So I had to make a decision. Like, are we going to just go for it again? Because if you start playing in a training camp, that means you're basically passing up your chances at Europe. And so I would have to go back as a replacement player. And I had played 2 years already in Europe. So I hadn't built a real name over there either. So it was a decision like, you know what, it's our chance. We got to go for it. And she was supportive of it. Let's do it. And so we decided to just go for it. So she was excited. Obviously, she was thrilled. But I had to explain to her, like, this is not me being on the team. This is me still trying to get on the team. Um, and there was a slim chance of that working out, just because I had to learn the triangle, which I did over a 3-day weekend just to get ready for camp. I just studied it as best I could, and then just had to be in great shape, which I was. So it worked out really well. She believed in me. She always did, and so we were thankful. And obviously, I knew that the Lord was in it just because it was such a unique opportunity. So we were truly grateful and really excited.
And that's kind of a stressful time because if you go to Europe, that's more of a guaranteed contract where you know you're going to have that money coming in for 10 months. Or do you roll the dice and say, let's see if we can make it because at least it's going to up our market value as we entertain European thoughts?
Yeah, and I was playing well over there too in Europe. So I had a lot of confidence to go back to Europe. So it was really a decision to make. Like, do we just take the European deals and go back, or do we roll the dice here and maybe try to build a resume and then catch a grit, catch a replacement deal? Because sure wasn't thinking I'm going to make the team. I wasn't that arrogant to believe that. I just thought, here's an opportunity. Let's see if we can do it. And she said, let's go the NBA route. And so we had done 2 years in Germany. We had did a little run in Venezuela. I had played in Amsterdam and Perth. So I had bounced around the globe quite a bit. And so I just said, you know what, we got to go for it. And I liked my chances in that I knew I learned the triangle. Triangle, the understanding of where to be and how to move in that offense was not difficult for me. So I was excited to go in and just show them that I could play even with the starting group and know where to go and be on the floor. As long as I could convince Shaq and Kobe, I knew what I was doing. Uh, I believed Phil Jackson would find a place for me, so it worked out.
Yeah, and I sit there and I think back to the 2001 Lakers, and of course, like you said, you had Coach Phil Jackson, you had Tex Winter who innovated the triangle, you had Coach Jimmy Clemens. Both of those guys are great friends of mine, and then I also think too, Coach Hamlin was there, and what a great staff to learn from and be around, and pick their brains as coaches.
Yeah, I would say that I'm probably most influenced by that group of guys. I mean, that staff was so unbelievable in terms of just how they work together and their ability to understand the game and just the ability to coach an NBA season from a marathon perspective. I mean, it's a long season, understanding the highs and lows, keeping the big picture in perspective. So it shaped, my coaching today, being an assistant with the Lakers now. That has heavily influenced, my ability and my just my input to the staff and how we're shaping our team even as we go forward, and how we did it last year, winning in the bubble.
That's exactly right, which has been so fun for me to sit back and watch your growth and your development and seeing your impact on the lives that you're impacting. But it takes me back to questions. When you first went into camp with the Lakers in 2001 with that invitation, who was the first pro to kind of take you under their wing and kind of be your mentor and guide as you were trying to navigate and try to make the roster?
Well, the way Phil Jackson sets up those training camps, he really believes that, if you're not good enough, then you're not going to be on our team. So you have to earn, every minute that you play there. I mean, I remember a reporter coming to me and saying, "How did you make this team?" Phil Jackson doesn't play around with, any type of like, "Oh, we're happy to have this guy." It's either he's helping us win a championship or you're not on the team. And if you remember, J.R. Ryder was on that team, who was one of the best scorers in the NBA, and he was an incredible scorer, but he had a hard time fitting into that triangle. And so that showed me that Phil didn't care what your name was. What he cared about was, what can you function within a triangle? Do you have a role, and can you do it? And so that really became the focus for me. So that team, back then we didn't have there was a lot of like mentoring going on. It was more like I was just super observant, and I didn't want to do anything wrong. So I was watching Ron Harper. I was watching Brian Shaw. I was watching these older vets, Horace Grant, like what they did, how they worked, Rick Frox. So that team, I was the rookie with Mark Madsen.
Right.
So we didn't have it. The mentoring side was, this is the job, and can you do it? And can you come in and be a pro every day? And so I agree with that philosophy as well. I think that's part of it. Like there was nobody like really hand holding me. And there's obviously competition there too. But I knew there was a job for an 18 minutes, a guy coming off the bench there, where Fisher played. And so I just wanted to get that opportunity. And so I watched, Ron Harper and Brian Shaw very closely. And B. Shaw became somebody that I really watched, just because he knew how to initiate the offense. He knew how to work with Shaq. And then he knew how to not be bothered by Kobe, which it is not necessarily indicative of who he was. He just was ultra competitive, and you just couldn't be bothered by him. Like, that's how he functioned, that's how he worked, and he wanted to drive you a little bit. So I would say Ron Harper and Brian Shaw were probably the two guys that I fell underneath their wing.
Well, great individuals and role models to emulate and to come in and be a pro and do your job and play your role. So, I mean, again, just outstanding opportunity for you. And again, watching you, because again, I had just coached in Germany that year before. I was in Ulm. I think you was heading over to Hanover at one time, and then you was in Cocodrilos with Venezuela. And then I later went to Venezuela with Guados de Lara. So we've had some similar bounces around the globe, man.
Incredible. That's amazing. Yeah, you know exactly the road that I've been down, for sure.
Oh, 100%. I'm just so happy for you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Coach Mike Penberthy. Let's use that hashtag MP12, Mike Penberthy. Uh, Coach, it's so fun. We've been able to cross paths while you came in town here with Salt Lake. And matter of fact, you were with the Pelicans a few years back with another good friend of ours, Freddie Vincent, and got to hang out for just a minute after the game. And it's always good catching up with you. So I can't thank you enough for your time today as you're traveling to your game tonight for those Pacers. So this is a lot of fun, my friend.
I'm enjoying it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Um, Kobe Bryant, man, you got to compete against a Kobe Bryant, at practice every day. And what were some of the things that stood out to you by seeing how competitive and his preparation and detail to the game? What did you take from Kobe in that year?
Well, Kobe Kobe didn't feel like it was worth his time to practice unless he was going to compete. So that's why he was the way he was. Like, he said, if I'm going to be out here, then we're going to go to war. I mean, otherwise, what are we doing? And so I totally understood that. I mean, I understood that in college, as I was at Masters, and I was the best player there. And so you feel the same way. Like, why am I out here practicing? If we're going to do this, I can go get workouts on my own. And Kobe was that way. He treated everybody the same way. It didn't matter who you were, rookie, veteran. He was wanting to compete. And so I remember the first week of practice, he said, Devin George, I've had enough practice against you last year. I've had enough of you. Mike P, you're my guy this year. So I actually matched up against Kobe every day. And he wanted me to compete every day with him. And there were days when I came in ready to go to war and he wasn't necessarily itching for it. But as soon as I put that, as soon as you strap up and you go to war and practice, and usually that meant Phil Jackson kept score. If he keeps score, then that means we're playing. There were times when he didn't keep score, and that was probably a good idea, or there would have been a fight or two. But those teams were ultra competitive, and when we put the scoreboard up, it was time to go. And so he pushed me, and there were days when I was ready to go to war, and he was like, all right, let's play. So he wanted to play every day. I mean, Kobe didn't like taking days off. Preparation wise, everybody at that level prepares. Kobe wasn't like overboard in terms of his preparation. He was just like everybody else, but he loved details. He loved learning. He watched everybody's workouts. I was in there every day because I knew my job was to shoot, and if I was only going to get 4 or 5 shots a game, I needed to make them. So I wasn't about to go to practice, and not put the work in. So he knew that. So I was always trying to beat him there, and we would try to beat each other at practice and get more work in. But he was so detailed in his footwork. He was curious about my shot and shooting and what I thought about and what I did and what was my footwork like and my catch and shoots. And so we had a lot of great conversations. But most importantly from Kobe, like, he just wanted to play it hard and win every day. And he loved it when somebody wanted to challenge him. And so we got along great in that regard. I mean, as best you can in those situations, because you're trying to compete every day. And so it's definitely not, a friendship when you're on the court, even with your teammates. You're trying to beat each other's brains in, and that's what I learned real quick was he wasn't interested in being friends when we were keeping score and there was time on the clock. He was trying to beat you up. So it was competitive for sure.
And see, I love hearing that because that set, there was a culture there with that Lakers. And again, you're not there to just win a conference championship. You're there to win a title. And that competitive drive on the court every day is what set that tone. And for you to accept that challenge and be ready and be prepared to go to battle every day, that's how you earn that respect. It's not entitlement, it's earned. So job well done.
About it. No question about it. You earned it with him. You earned it. And with Phil Jackson, you earned it. I mean, your minutes were not given to you. Your role was not given to you. It was like, you got to earn those. And Kobe helped that every day. That was part of why we were so good.
Yeah, see, love hearing that story, and I appreciate you sharing that. Tell me one of the best Shaquille O'Neal stories off the court. I heard you in an interview one time, and it might have been on the DP show, where you talked about him giving you some money because he wanted you to have a nicer suit or something. But share a great Shaquille O'Neal story off the court.
Well, yeah, Shaq always wanted to take care of his teammates. I mean, he was just a great guy. And so he was always interested in making sure everybody was taken care of. So, there were no, I mean, every day Shaq would text me, hey, I'm going to dinner. You want to go? Meet me here. Or you want to eat lunch? Meet me here. So we would always eat lunch together. We would eat dinner together often. That was the norm for him. Buying me suits. I mean, I didn't have any clothes going into the NBA season. I was literally broke, just living off of meal money for that week or two that I was there. And so he said, hey, anytime if you need me, I got you. And I said, I'll let you know for sure. And it happened to be that we were heading to Portland, and I didn't have any clothes to wear suit wise. I was, in some slacks and a polo shirt. And he was like, you got to wear a suit, man. And I said, all right, I need a suit. And he said, come with me, I'll take you. I said, okay. So we We got in his car. He drove me over to his suit.
Oh, Mike, we're breaking up. We're losing you,
For
partner.
the year. I didn't need anything after that. And he offered to buy. Are you there? Oh, maybe have a bad area here.
No, it's okay. You were breaking up a little bit there, but you were sharing that story how you were going into Portland and Shaq was going to take care of you with a suit.
Yeah, and so he took us over to his place, and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna take you to my guy." I said, "What's your guy?" He was like, "No, it's my suit guy. I got it. Don't worry about it." So he hooked me up with 6 suits, all custom. And so I was ready to go for the season because at that time, we wore suits to the game. Now we don't do that anymore, but shoot, we had to be dressed up to the nines, and I was definitely on the low end of that totem pole. But Shaq made sure I was looking good. So he hooked me up in many ways. He offered to buy me a car. He's like, whatever you need, man, just I'll take care of you. So he was that guy on our team for everybody. He was just a great teammate in so many ways.
Wow, great story. I've heard stuff like that about Shaq, and I think it's great whenever we can kind of bring awareness to how good some of these teammates really were, because we see their personalities on TV, we hear some things, and we see social media posts, but to hear that with your direct interaction with him is a neat thing to share, and I appreciate you doing that. Um, how about as that 2001 season's going on? Who did you kind of mark your calendar for the big games? Who were you most excited to compete against during that 2001 championship run?
Dude, we had a Western Conference loaded with players, and so at the time, White Chocolate, Jason Williams, he was in Sacramento. John Stockton, one of my heroes, was in Utah. Steve Nash was in Dallas. Jason Kidd was in Phoenix. So we were loaded. Damon Stoudemire was in Portland. There was just nonstop. Baron Davis was in Golden State. I mean, we were facing real players every night. So, I felt like every night I was playing as hard as I could. And so it was like matched up. And I knew I was going to get small time. Mookie Blaylock was out there as well in the West. And so I knew I was going to get some, 18, 20 minutes. If I played well, I was going to get to play, even more. But I played 38 minutes against Stockton. That was probably the one of the bigger joys of my career, to play against him in Utah, and just to see him play and function on the court and what he did. I mean, that was amazing. I played Avery Johnson was in San Antonio. That was another great game, and we played in front of 47,000 in San Antonio at the bowl there, so at the Alamo Dome. So that was an amazing experience there. And then we ended up getting them in the playoffs too. So there was there was a lot of teams that I thought to myself, man, I don't get a break here. Like, when am I going to get some time off? These guys are stinking good. So it never ended. But Portland was always a challenge. I thought the hardest guy I played against was Damon Stoudemire. I mean, he was a handful in that pick and roll with Rasheed Wallace. And in the regular season, we didn't do too much defensively other than just our basic defensive coverages. And so you were left out there on your own to kind of fend for yourself. So in the playoffs, we had some more coverages that we put together. But regular season, I mean, you were on your own to handle Nash, Stoudemire, J. Kidd, Stockton, Mookie Blaylock. I mean, you were just in over your head. So I loved playing in that Western Conference at that time. There were some great guards, and I really learned a lot from playing against them. But I guess I would say Utah Jazz with John Stockton. That was one of my favorite games, the favorite series to play in.
Yeah, playing 38 minutes against a John Stockton who, led the league, in assists. What did you learn by preparing to play against a John Stockton? I mean, was it the way he would set the screens? Was it how he went hard off cuts? Is it how he would read the pick and roll? What did you pick up from John Stockton?
Well, I mean, all those things apply. I mean, everything you said there, was part of what made him great. I think I learned just his post passing angles because that applied directly to my ability to pass to Shaq, who, when I came off the bench and played, a lot of times Kobe wasn't in. And so we featured Shaq a little bit more. So my job was to get him the ball. So I think John got in some good post passing angles, how he delivered the pass, whether it was, right by your ear or fake a pass to make a pass, his bounce passes, like everything he did was so polished. So, he protected the ball when he was getting to certain spots on the floor where you knew you might be a little vulnerable to a steal or to be put in a difficult position to make a pass. Stockton was just so good at protecting the ball and getting to the spots on the floor where he could deliver passes. So I watched him a lot on that, and I learned a lot from him. He was never in a position where he was compromised at delivering the pass. And so I really enjoyed, playing against him. I knew where he was going on the floor, but it didn't seem to matter. And that's what makes pros so good. Professional players what's coming, and they can still be great at it, even if you're there to try to, I guess, you distract him. I mean, I don't think I did much distracting for him, but you're trying to make it as uncomfortable as possible, and he never seemed uncomfortable. So I would say I learned probably that from John Stockton more than anything.
Wow. And so I'm sitting there back now, and I'm kind of a visual person. I'm thinking of you running that triangle and featuring Shaquille O'Neal in the post and the triangle, and you running that pinch post off of Shaquille O'Neal to rub somebody off that big backside, huh?
Oh, any chance you can be involved with Shaquille O'Neal, there's a good chance you're getting open. So I spent a lot of time outside the paint, away from, just spacing the floor for him. That was really my job, was to just create space for Shaq. And so he always wanted me on the court because he knew guys like Stockton liked to roam, and he liked to roam the court. And he was a very disruptive defensive player because he would roam defensively and get in gaps, and then bigs couldn't get their movements to the middle of the paint, which is where they would score most of the time. So he would always call me over to be right in front of him so that Stockton couldn't roam as much. And if he did, that was what happened. I ended up making 4 threes, I think, in the first quarter, and that kept Stockton attached to me. So that's why I ended up playing so many minutes, because Phil Jackson was like, well, we got to have Mike in the game if we're going to have him out there, at least Stockton will have to guard him. So I don't even think I got the ball in the second half. I think John Stockton just stayed on me. So, but that was my role. And so, yeah, Shaq was so great at making you better as a player. And so that he was such a great team guy. I mean, Shaq passed the ball. He was an underrated passer, and truly valued his teammates, especially guys who could shoot. And so he didn't care defensively. He said, whatever you got, give it to me, or just send them to me. I'll help you. But when I throw you the ball, you shoot it. And so that was my job with Shaquille O'Neal, was to shoot the ball.
See, I love hearing that. It's taking me back to those times and knowing how you could space that floor and give him more room to operate, and again allow those other cutters to have some space as well. Because Shaquille O'Neal, as strong and as dominant in his physicality, with his back to the basket, but he was a better passer than most people give him credit for. Oh, I think I may have
Say that
lost you
again,
there.
Scott. I'm sorry, I lost.
No, I just
Say that
saying,
again.
I don't think Shaquille got enough credit for how good of a passer he was passing out of that post, because we just know his physical dominance and physical presence with his back to the basket in that triangle offense. But he passed the ball extremely well for a big man.
Yeah, you have to in the triangle. I mean, it's a pass-driven offense, and so his ability to pass made it really work. And teams had to guard him differently. You couldn't just leave guys, because he was such a good passer on cutters. So Shaq was an underrated passer, no question about it.
Yeah, the good stuff. Take us to the night where you got your championship ring. What did that feel like, winning that championship? and then be able to put that ring on your finger. I mean, here we are, macho men, and we're competitive, but here we are fighting for jewelry, and you got that jewelry as a player. Take us to that night.
Well, I mean, we ended up winning 4 games. I think we won 3 in a row in Philadelphia, and so to go in on the road and just the what I learned from being on that team, their ability to win on the road and the poise that was necessary to play in what seemed like a close game, but to us didn't seem that close because we always felt like we were in control. Um, the poise that those guys play with, you just learn so much from that, and trusting each other and trusting what our game plan was. That was so much fun, and then to finally to culminate and win it. Um, yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain. You're at the top of the mountain, you know. I mean, that's it. I mean, I was 25 years old and I had an NBA championship ring on my finger, so um, it was a real joy, especially because you enjoyed the team so much, and you enjoyed just the learning. I mean, I was just soaking up everything I could from that team, and really just the amount of professional. I mean, Horace Grant had 5 rings, I think. Ron Harper ended up with 5 rings. Brian Shaw. I mean, these guys all had tons of rings. So you learn so much from those guys. And Phil Jackson already had 6 going into that. So I think that was 7 actually, and this was his 8th. So I mean, the amount of just learning of the game of basketball that went on, and how different the playoffs were from the regular season. To put that ring on really was fun, but the journey itself was really more fun than putting the ring on. I mean, to be honest with you. So it was great.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And then, of course, after playing for the Lakers, you played in Italy and you played some more in Germany, and then you got into coaching and becoming a shooting coach. Um, I think of the 2014, 2015 T-Wolves, when you had a young Zach LaVine there, very
Yep.
athletic, but shooting wasn't really part of his repertoire yet. And you got to work with Zach LaVine. What were you able to pinpoint on Zach's jumper at that level to where you could really help, get his mechanics tuned in?
Well, Zach, his ball was too high above his head. So when we started to work together, I told him, like, Zach, where you place the ball in terms of your pocket is irrelevant. It's everybody finishes their shot in the same place. That's where shots are blocked, right? So everybody blocks their shot above their head. So if the ball is low down by your shoulder, kind of how Steph Curry and Steve Nash shoot it, or if the ball is way above your head, like Ray Allen shot it, the release point is still the same, but you're losing power. And I said, I just felt like you're working too hard to shoot these threes. And I actually think somebody like Jimmer Fredette could have learned from that as well. It's just I felt like his shot position was just too high for that far of a shot. So I told Zach, like, you need to bring your shot down lower. And so we started working on it lower, and he's like, it's so much easier. I feel like I'm going to get my shot blocked though. So you got to get over that. And there's some distance, some shot separation that you have to create, which obviously he's amazing at, and he does it even. I mean, now he's an all-star, so I'm not surprised by that. But he lowered his shot, and it made it a little bit easier for him, just in terms of his shot. I guess you could say form, but that shot rhythm became something very comfortable, and now he shoots it with absolute ease. So
Yeah, and you can see that
very
comp.
coachable kid. I love Zach LaVine. Still stay, obviously, still text each other.
Yeah, you could see his confidence growing because he had great footwork, and you've probably enhanced that footwork. But he always had, his athleticism. He had the legs for the distance, but like you said, that shooter's pocket to where it's going to make that, the percentages are going to go higher now that you fine tune those mechanics.
Yeah, I think a lot of players. I think the further the shot goes out, the easier it needs to get, not the harder it needs to get in terms of just the energy that's driven through the shot. And so he was straining a little too much, I felt, and so I felt like he just needed to lower his shot a little bit and make it a little more comfortable. And yeah, man, now he's absolutely effortless now. Really, really good shot.
Yeah, it's fun to watch you work with these guys, and then of course then the 2018 season, you're with the New Orleans Pelicans, and they've got Lonzo Ball at the time, and you and Freddie V getting to work with them, and we had Frank Jackson, who I'm good friends with, who was all part of that team as well, and you got to impact those lives and kind of work with them and their shooting mechanics. What were some things that you picked out right away with that Pelicans group?
Yeah, I mean, I started, I've been with Drew Holiday for a number of years. So that was how that relationship started. Um, so I started with Drew and really was focused on Drew Holiday, Rajon Rondo, that group there. And my 2 years there, I spent most of my time with Drew Holiday. So we were trying to just fine tune it, very similar. Felt like he was straining on his 3-point shots. And so we just brought his shot pocket down a little bit. Yeah, Frank Jackson. I mean, I love Frank. He's one of my favorite guys to work with. Great kid, really explosive and really talented. He just needs to find a place where he gets some minutes. But I think I think all those guys that are super athletic and super explosive, like Drew and like Frank, and even like Rondo, who's super talented, like it's just trying to make the shot easier and just simplify a lot of their thinking going into their shooting. So, Drew and Rondo, there was more pick and roll stuff. I worked a lot more off Drew off the catch and a lot of his attack lines and things like that. So it wasn't all shooting, but Rondo was primarily shooting and play calling. And then Drew Holiday was a lot more of his attack lines. And then Frank Jackson was just trying to get him as much information as we could. He was just coming out of school his first year, so he was a young kid. And really just soaking up as much information as he could. Now he needs a little bit of time so he can put that stuff into practice.
Yeah, it's good stuff there too. And now you're talking about Rondo and you had AD there, and then fast forward, you become a coach with the Lakers with another great staff. I mean, you're there with my guy, Coach Phil Handy, who's an outstanding person. You got the Hawk, Lionel Hawkins. You got Jason Kidd. You're in there with Miles Simeon, and man, so Rondo and AD. Now you're with your Lakers, where you won a championship. What was it like walking on the court there with that great staff and Coach Frank Vogel, and you're identifying things and you're working with the players, and what was that like to come back to LA and be a part of that great staff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm real fortunate to be there. Frank Vogel, Jason Kidd, Lionel Hollins. I mean, Jason Kidd, Lionel Hollins, and myself, we had all played in the NBA, and played guard in the NBA. But Jason Kidd and Lionel Hollins, they had 14, 15 years in the NBA. Both had won championships as players. Lionel Hollins played with, Dr. J. He played against so many amazing players. So just to sit and listen to him talk, I mean, you learn so much from those guys. But Frank Vogel, he's a defensive coach. And so for me, just to see the game differently, my job and my role now is to I'm more on the offensive side. So I handle more play calling and play suggestions. When you're behind the bench, you're suggesting. We're in the front of the bench, you're deciding. So, our job is to just suggest plays and out of timeouts and substitutions and things like that. And so, finding that role and being different, shooting is not as important. I've worked primarily with Anthony Davis now, and specifically with Anthony Davis. So, we're always working on his shot, fine tuning it. I think, shooting it's a lifelong pursuit. I don't think it's something you master until you're dead. So for a guy like him, we're always trying to improve it and fine tune it and sharpen it. So so you start to become a coach. You're not just focused on shooting like I was in New Orleans and in Minnesota, and that's great for me because I'm a coach's kid and I grew up playing point guard. So my mind thinks like a coach anyway. So it's really right up my alley. And to learn from Jason Kidd, Lionel Hollins, Phil Handy, obviously the player development master. It's great to be around this staff, and we all seem to gel and get along great. And it's really been fun. Frank Vogel's really a genius at that management of talent. If you think about that staff, there's a lot of talent there in terms of just what everybody knows and how they want to influence the team. And Frank is just a humble guy who he thinks he's not the smartest guy in the room. Usually that person is the smartest guy in the room. And so he comes in with that approach, gives us a ton of opportunity to have input. And I've learned a lot from him in that regard. Like you got to have a good staff to win a championship. You just have to. And Frank's management of the staff and the players is truly, he's a master at it. And I've learned a lot from him.
See, that's great stuff right there. Good nuggets because it is a marathon. And when those like right now, February, March, those dog days of the NBA, you got to stay positive. You got to, keep having good energy out there, keep the guys focused. It's good stuff, and that's where that good staff is going to come in handy.
No question about it. You're absolutely right. I mean, he like Frank is the kind of guy, like even in our meeting this morning, hey Mike, what's our first play tonight? What do you got for me? I try to bring him 3 plays every game to use out of timeouts or just some different twists. And it's up to him at that point to use them. Like I said, I'm suggesting and he's deciding. So, but you want to have that. I mean, if I were a head coach, I'd want to have that just that volume of play thinking and just some creativity. And that allows him to think about, okay, who am I playing tonight? What's my patterns for substitutions? Who's our matchups? It frees you up as a coach. You can't do everything. And so, like I said, he does a great job of, hey, Miles, Simon, what do you think we should do here? Phil Handy, what's our defensive coverage here? Jason Kidd, should I play this guy? Should I not? Lionel, what do you think? Should I use my timeouts here and there? So we all have our roles within that staff, and we all stay within them really well. And that's evolved, obviously, over some time, but we've made it work. And I'm telling you, I mean, if you're the only guy running things on an NBA staff, you're going to die. You're going to have a heart attack by this season. I mean, there's so much that goes on. It's unbelievable. As you
Yeah.
know, how hard it is to be that guy and do everything. Oh, that's
Yeah.
tough.
A lot of details. So it's great to have a great staff that you have confidence in, you have trust in, you have faith in. And that leads me to another question. I mean, here you are these years, you've had to coach against LeBron James. Now you're with the Lakers. What was it like finally having LeBron James on your bench and now seeing what he brings to the team? What's the first thing you noticed that he brought to the LA Lakers as you got to work with LeBron?
Oh, energy. That, I mean, you think a guy who's 16th year, 17th year in the league. I mean, you would think that he would be, pacing himself. That guy just works every day, and he's in all the meetings. He's interested in helping. He wants to lead. He wants the team to win. Like he is so involved and engaged and in everything. I mean, he wants to, why are we playing him? How can we do this play? Like he's all in. And so he's not just coasting and then decides to hit the button. That's not how it works with LeBron. I mean, yesterday's first practice back from All-Star break, he's like, man, my break's over. I'm ready to go. Let's go. And he was ready to play. And we were just like, Bron, slow down. He's like, oh man, I feel great. I'm not slowing down. And so, that just brings the energy up on the team. And in the huddles before the games, all of our pregame, I mean, he's locked in, listening, answering questions, throwing out suggestions, reminding players of players' tendencies and how we want to guard the post here. And I mean, he's locked into everything. So I mean, I would say energy and engaged. I would say that's LeBron James.
See, I think that's great because, again, you think of somebody who is setting the tone and creating that culture for everyone else to follow. And when you can lead by example and then have verbal leadership with your knowledge, you got something special.
No question about it. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. Like I get a chance to do our offensive breakdowns probably twice a week, 2-3 times a week. And so there are times when I'll say, hey, Bron, I'm going to hit you on this one, early because I need to get Dennis on the next one. I need Dennis Schroeder to buy into what I'm saying with something specific about our offense. Say, hey, you know what? This is not something we need you to do, Dennis. So I'll hit LeBron and say, hey, Bron, I'm going to go at you a little bit here, but that's really because I got to get to Dennis. And so Bron would be like, yeah, go ahead. I got you. And so I'll be like, hey, Brian, right here, I need you to be more aggressive in the post. You can't settle for this fadeaway. I need you to get to the rim. And be like, all right, I got you, coach. So the next clip, Dennis, see, this is what I'm talking about here, Dennis. Like, we don't need you shooting this floater here. We need you drive and kick on this situation. And that only happens if LeBron James is there for that. And so, and that's part of understanding how to coach. I mean, you got to know how to hit certain players in certain ways. And your superstar, you don't just want to blast, you don't want to blast the guy who does everything on the court for you without him knowing. But, I said, look, I got to touch it today because I need to get a couple of these guys. I got to get Montrezl Harrell to crash the boards. And I need Dennis to do this drive and kick. So I'm going to touch you early. And he's like, no problem. I got you. So, there's that's something I also learned from Frank Vogel, that he was like that. Jason Kidd, just if you're gonna just make sure you touch him before practice if you're gonna hit him on something. And then okay, I got you. That makes sense. And then the weight that carries, in terms of your coaching to the rest of the team. Again, that's all because LeBron James understands and he gets it and he wants to win. And what a great guy to have on the team. Seriously.
Yeah, and see what I hear from that is effective communication. You got to be a great communicator as a coach to identify roles and responsibilities. And again, when your star takes that coaching, good things are going to happen.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, coaching is just like clearly communicating, right? I mean, it's got to be clear. And data and information is great, but not if it's just dumped onto them. You don't want to data dump players. You want to just clearly communicate to them what you expect. And then your superstars, they want to be protected, and then you want to make them look good. So LeBron and my relationship has gotten very close because that's what I try to do. I try to put LeBron in the best situation we can offensively so that he can look good, and eventually chase down Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the all-time scoring. Like, I get it. Like, that's what we want you to do. So that's helped our relationship, and that he knows I'm looking to try to make him look good. And then, you know what? If I'm doing that, LeBron James is going to make everybody else look good. I don't have to worry about that,
Yeah, see, good stuff there. Let's change gears. We've got 5 or 6 minutes here. Talk about the impact of the loss and death of Kobe Bryant and Gigi, and how that affected you personally, and what was the impact that had on that Laker team last year? Because we all saw the Mamba jerseys being worn, but from your personal perspective, how did that affect the team moving forward?
Well, I had just seen Kobe in August at the Mamba Sports Academy where his daughter was practicing, and Kobe about broke my neck when he gave me a hug. I mean, he was a different guy. He wasn't Kobe the Mamba. He was Kobe the dad. And so when I yelled out at him in Italian, because I speak fluent Italian and so does he, and he looked over at me and it was big smile and big hug, and it was a different person. I mean, when I had seen him previously, he was still Kobe trying to score 60 every game. And so he was still focused. Now he was just a proud dad. Hey, come watch my daughter, see how she's doing. Tell her what you think, man. What do you think? And so, we had a great moment and so a few minutes of just talking that at that time. And then, obviously it was a shock to all of us. We were flying home from Philadelphia when we got the news on the plane, and yeah, it impacted our team. So many of those guys on our team, Kobe was their hero. Michael Jordan was mine as a player. I had a couple that I dreamed of being that I couldn't be, and then a couple that I dreamed of being that I had a closer chance of being. Michael was the guy that I was just enthralled with and just loved watching. For our team, Kobe was that guy.
Right.
And so everybody growing up, they were all talking about Kobe. So when Kobe passed away, it hit our team hard. And then AD and LeBron had played with him. Jason Kidd played with him on the Olympic teams. So our guys were shook. And it brings in perspective. I think it helped draw us together. Those type of situations either push you apart or bring you together. And because of LeBron and Jason Kidd's leadership through that, and Frank Vogel, quite frankly, Frank was the perfect guy for that scenario. And you know, he has a perspective. You know, when you're a coach and you've won and then you've been fired and then he was fired again, you get a different perspective on life. And when those type of things happen, Frank didn't trip about missing practice. He didn't care about, you know, those little things that we think about, oh, they're going to affect our season because we didn't practice. Hey, we need a day off today. We need to, you know what? We need to have dinner together as a team. We did that. We tried to be together more, and that brought us together. And that carried over into the bubble for us. And so, the tragedy of Kobe and Gigi really, um, it hurt everybody, and it hurt to see all those guys of the team that I saw at his memorial. And it was painful, but it was also a joyful time to reconnect with guys and celebrate his life and all the stories we had and got to share with one another were fun to reminisce. But and I still do when I see Derek Fisher, Robert Ory, Rick Fox. It's big hugs and lots of love for one another. And that tragedy was part of bringing really the Laker family together.
Yeah, as tragic as it was, knowing that you had that personal relationship with him, I just wanted to get your perspective on that, and I'm sure it's a little emotional still to share with you. So, thanks for sharing that with us, Coach. You talked about him being a dad, and Coach, I know you're a proud dad as well, and you've got some young kids that are great little athletes themselves. And I'm sure you're super proud of them as Kobe was of his kids. I mean, you got Ty and Jaden and Cade, and I know they're going to be successful because that apple's not going to fall far from the tree. And I love seeing your excitement when you're sharing their videos while they're out there, playing ball or playing softball. So I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, it is. You're. Oh.
Yeah. See. I feel you,
Yeah,
brother.
you got me on that one. Yeah, I love my
No.
kids.
Yeah, see, I'm with you. My son's actually playing in his third year over in Europe, and it's hard for me because I'm so proud of him. We adopted him from, matter of fact, the Compton, Long Beach area, and just so proud of him. So to see him, having the success that he has, I know you're just as proud of your kids as we are. So you're wonderful for that, and I appreciate your time today, Coach, and I got nothing but love for you, and I see your move to emotions right now, and I know how proud you are as a parent, and I know you're a wonderful husband. And again, God's got great things planned for you, and I know you are their positive role model.
Thanks, Scott. I really appreciate you having me. And yeah, I love my kids, love my wife, and I'm truly blessed. And you've reminded me that even right now. So thank you for having me. It's always good to see you. Hope I can't wait to give you a hug when I see you again.
Well, when you get out here to Salt Lake City, man, let's go break some bread and be safe as you're driving. Again, I'm moved by seeing you moved. And again, that's just because of the kind of people we are. And thank you for making this show today so special, Coach. Good luck to you tonight against the Pacers. And I know you got the Warriors coming up on Monday. You're super busy. You're taking time from your schedule driving down the road just to get to your game. So thank you for that, Mike. I appreciate you, brother.
Really, thanks for having me. It was great, and I appreciate you so much.
Hey, nothing but love, my friend. Again, when you get out here to Salt Lake City, hey, why don't you come to my home and we'll give you a home cooked meal since you'll be out on the road, brother.
Oh, that sounds great. That sounds great.
There you go. All right, man. Be safe. Continue to be blessed. Stay healthy, and good luck to you the second half of the marathon because I know when it comes time to compete for that jewelry, you're going to be right there, fellas.
No question about it. Thank you, Scott.
You got it. Ladies and gentlemen, again, that's Coach Mike Penberthy. Again, the hashtag MP12. Nothing but love for him and his time. And Mike, I thank you. And again, I'm moved and inspired by you every day. Continue the hard work that you're doing there with your Lakers and good luck. And thank you for being a part of the Coach Scott Field Show today, my friend.
Thank you, Scott.
All right. Be safe. Bye-bye,
Take
guys.
care.